Listen, pull up for a second.
You see that guy pulling a power move parking his 7 Series BMW? I guarantee you there's maybe $100 left in his checking account. And that girl in the next office with the Louis Vuitton bag? That bag costs more than her entire emergency fund, if she even has one. The guy at the bar lecturing you about his investment portfolio? He's got more credit card debt than actual shares in Apple. And that influencer preaching about success from Dubai? She's 3 months behind on rent. The stats are shocking. Nearly half of people with credit cards just pay the minimum every month, rolling the debt forward. Yet, luxury car sales are skyrocketing. Designer brand revenues are hitting records. The gap between what people actually have in their pockets and what they're willing to blow on clout has never been wider. Welcome to the era of faking it. Welcome to the era of fake rich. Total credit card debt in the U.S. has crossed $1.28 trillion. The average family owes the bank over $100,000. But walk into a parking lot, it's all Lexuses and Mercs. Walk into a mall, everyone's carrying Gucci bags. Open your social media feed, it's a non-stop fireworks show of luxury that isn't actually there. The math doesn't add up, you feel me? Here's the deal. A ton of people figured out how to look like millionaires while being dead broke. They've leveled up their appearance of success skill, but inside, it's empty. It's just a pretty picture that crumbles the moment you poke it. Remember this, real wealth whispers, fake wealth screams. Once you learn to spot these tells, you'll see fake rich people on every corner. And more importantly, you won't get sucked into that trap yourself. Because these stunts don't just look stupid, they actually incinerate your chance of ever becoming truly wealthy. Let's break down the 10 dead giveaways that a guy is just blowing smoke. The first sign is the entry-level luxury trap. The guy buys the cheapest item from the most expensive brand. The base model BMW 3 Series, the Gucci belt with the massive buckle, the cheapest LV bag. They want the logo, not the quality. They want the badge they can't actually afford. Walk through any parking lot and you'll see it instantly. A budget Mercedes, cloth seats, manual adjustments, no navigation. An Audi with the weakest engine and steel wheels. You think the manufacturers are dumb? No, they know guys want the emblem on the hood more than they want a decent ride. And here's the funny part. A fully loaded Honda Accord costs the same as that base German premium. The Honda will have better options, a more comfortable interior, better reliability, and it's cheaper to maintain. But the status chaser doesn't want a Honda. He wants the losers at the stoplight to see the 3-pointed star or the 4 rings. And it doesn't end with the purchase. Cheap luxury comes with expensive maintenance. You have to pump premium gas. The insurance is insane, and parts cost as much as a plane wing. Maintaining a beggar's Merc costs way more than a top-tier Toyota, not just once, but every single month for years. The math is brutal. A fake rich guy spends 20 to 30% of his income just to look rich. A truly wealthy guy spends 2 to 5. Over a few decades, that difference turns into hundreds of thousands of dollars that were never invested. Real wealthy guys buy the toys after they've built the capital.
Fake rich guys buy the status symbol first, hoping the wealth follows. Spoiler, it almost never does. The second sign is non-stop money talk. This is the guy who steers every conversation toward income, investments, cars, or deals he's currently cooking up. The topic can be anything, but he'll always pivot back to finances, and always in a way that makes him look like a winner. You could be discussing pizza toppings, and he'll chime in, "Oh yeah, I used to eat that before I started making real cash." You mention a vacation, and he immediately starts lecturing you on his credit card point strategy that only works because he spends so much. You mention a mutual friend's success, and within 2 sentences, he's back to his own achievements. People who are actually solid with money don't need to constantly remind everyone how great they're doing. They remind themselves, not you. It's external validation to fill an internal hole. Watch for the pattern. They always talk about money they're about to make, not what's already in the bank. "I've got the deal of the century closing next month. Once this investment hits, we're set. I'm working on a project right now. It's gonna be huge." Always future tense, because the present can't support their image. Money isn't real until it hits the account. Deals fall through. Investments tank. But the fake rich talk about projected income like it's already in their pocket, because the reality wouldn't impress anyone. Another tell is confusing revenue with profit. A guy brags his business did $500,000 in turnover when his take-home pay was $50K. Still money, but not the flex he's presenting. This exaggeration screams insecurity. Truly wealthy people usually stay quiet about finances, not because they're secretive, but because they have nothing to prove to anyone. The third sign is the most brutal. It's the item that costs more than the savings account. A girl carrying a $5,000 bag when she has $2,000 in her savings. Luxury watches on the wrist of a guy with a maxed-out credit card. This happens all the time. This purchase isn't a celebration of success. It's a costume for success that hasn't arrived. There's an old rule, bro. If you can't afford to buy it twice, you can't afford it. If one purchase eats up 2-3 months of your income, that's not wealth. That's a dangerous game of living above your means to create an illusion. Think about what that bag actually represents. Not an achievement, not a smart financial move. Just a willingness to sacrifice your future for clout right now. A bag might impress strangers for 3 seconds. An empty bank account will create stress for years. I've seen people take out loans for designer gear, paying interest on a bag, making monthly payments on a watch. The item loses value while the debt grows. By the time they pay it off, they've spent 30% more than the sticker price on something worth half what it was. People with real capital rarely make purchases that jeopardize their financial foundation. Their luxury items are a tiny fraction of their net worth, not a massive chunk of their monthly budget. The fourth sign is the perpetual one-upper. Whatever you did, he did it better. Whatever you bought, he bought it more expensive. Whatever you accomplished, his version was cooler. You got promoted? He got promoted higher. You took a nice vacation? He spent 2 weeks in the south of France flying business class. You bought a new watch? He'll explain why his movement is superior and how you can hear the difference in the ticking.
Picture this at a party. A guy shares that he and his wife finally bought their first apartment.
Before anyone can even say congrats, the one-upper jumps in. That's cool, but you really should have waited and got something bigger. When I bought my first place, I made sure it was at least 4 bedrooms because anything smaller doesn't appreciate the same way.
The joy leaves the room. The person who just achieved something meaningful now feels like a peasant.
Or at work, you land a new client and mention it in the hallway. The guy immediately switches to his giant client he landed last quarter, the commission he made, and the dinner the CEO bought him to celebrate. Your win just evaporates in his need to dominate. This isn't normal conversation. It's a competition. Every interaction is a contest he has to win. The psychology is transparent. It comes from insecurity, not strength.
A truly successful guy can celebrate your wins without feeling threatened.
He doesn't need to pull the spotlight because his self-worth doesn't depend on being the alpha in every dialogue. Fake rich people are threatened by any success that isn't theirs. Your good news makes them feel smaller, so they reflexively downplay your achievement while inflating their own. Real wealth lets you be genuinely happy for others. Fake wealth requires constant comparison and conquest. The 5th sign is the social media performance. The polished feed of luxury experiences, expensive purchases, and lifestyle content designed only to project wealth, whether it exists or not. If a guy's money is real, he doesn't need to document every breath for strangers on the internet. But for the fake rich, wealth only exists when validated by likes and comments. The feeling isn't complete until it's posted. The purchase isn't satisfying until others have seen it. Here's the uncomfortable truth about social media. Flexing gets more engagement than discipline. A video of how I spent $1,000 at the mall will get more views than watch me put $1,000 into my emergency fund. The first looks like the dream. The second looks boring as hell. This creates a twisted incentive. People realize projecting wealth generates attention regardless of reality. So they play the role of the prosperous while building nothing. Nobody posts themselves doing dishes. Nobody films their budget spreadsheets. Nobody shares that they stayed home for 16 hours on Saturday to save money. Social media shows the highlights, not the reality. But fake rich people need you to believe those highlights are their everyday life. Watch for fake engagement too. Profiles with millions of followers but comments full of bots. They buy the appearance of influence to support the appearance of wealth. Lies on top of lies. Meanwhile, truly wealthy people often have zero social media presence. They don't need the validation, and they definitely don't want strangers poking around their business. The 6th sign is leasing luxury cars. This deserves its own category because it's become so normalized that people don't see the red flag. When you lease, you're paying for the years of steepest depreciation, the most expensive period of a car's life, and then you just give it back. The dealer guesses what the car will be worth in 3 years, and you pay the difference plus interest, taxes, and fees. A $50K car is worth $30K in 3 years, so you're essentially financing $20K of loss plus interest. Then you return it and start over with a new lease, paying those fees and that loss all over again. The cycle never ends. Lease, return. Lease, return. Forever payments with zero equity.
A guy who stays in a lease for 20 years has paid out hundreds of thousands of dollars and owns absolutely nothing at the end. Leasing is one of the most expensive ways to have a car over your lifetime. But it lets people afford the monthly payment on a ride they couldn't actually buy. That's the whole point. The guy in the leased business sedan looks successful. The payment fits his monthly budget.
What you don't see is that he has zero capital in that car. He's paying premium insurance, and he's locked himself into perpetual payments for nothing.
If you really want a luxury car for reasons other than clout, buying used makes way more sense. But buying used doesn't give you that new car smell and the perfect badge the fake rich require. The seventh sign is counterfeits, the flex fake. If a guy is rocking fake designer gear, he's literally wearing a billboard that says, "I'm a fraud." People who actually know luxury can spot a fake from across the room. The stitching is wrong. The leather is off. The logo is slightly crooked. The hardware looks like cheap plastic. Everything screams imitation to anyone who knows. Here's the irony. Fakes aren't even that cheap. A good replica bag might cost $200 or $300. For that same money, you could buy a genuinely high-quality bag from a brand that isn't trying to be someone else. Real leather, solid craftsmanship, just without the famous logo. But fake rich people don't want that. They don't care about quality. They only care about the status that comes with the logo. So they'd rather pay $200 for a poorly made fake than $200 for a well-made original, because the fake has a name people recognize. Some claim they just like the design and aren't trying to fool anyone. But if that were true, why choose a replica of a specific brand? Why not buy something original from a company you can actually afford? The choice of brand gives away the motive every time. It's about the logo, not the design. Counterfeits give you neither status nor quality. The people you're trying to impress know it's fake, and the item itself is garbage. You paid money to carry around evidence of your own pretense. The eighth sign is constantly pushing get-rich-quick schemes. Not the obvious scams. Those are easy to spot. I'm talking about the ones that sound almost plausible, but faster than normal. Forex, drop shipping, crypto day trading, option strategies, MLM, infinite banking, some revolutionary system that's going to change everything if you just jump in now. A tiny fraction of people win at this. The vast majority lose their shirts. But fake rich people love talking about these opportunities because they live in the future tense. They aren't talking about what they've built. They're talking about what they're about to build. The potential justifies their current lack of results. Usually, it goes like this. A guy finds a new move and goes all in. He talks about it nonstop, tries to recruit friends, projects insane confidence. 6 months later, he's lost his money, but he'll never mention that part. Instead, he's already moved on to the next thing. Just as confident, just as loud. The cycle repeats every year or two. A trail of failed ventures he never acknowledges. Always chasing the next big thing that's definitely gonna hit this time. To admit failure is to break the identity he built. So he just keeps pushing forward, hoping the next move finally delivers the results he promised everyone, including himself. Real wealth is built slowly and boringly over years or decades. It rarely comes from turning 5K into $1 million in 12 months. But slow and boring doesn't fit the fake rich image. They need drama, even if that drama only exists in their projections. When a guy can't shut up about his next big move, his current move probably isn't covering his bills. The 9th sign is condescending money advice. This is different from one-upping. This guy actually criticizes your financial choices and tries to school you. You mention you're happy with your apartment. He says you should have upgraded by now with your income. You drive a reliable used car. He asks why you didn't finance something newer. You're saving hard. He tells you that money should be invested in whatever he's into right now. The advice is always unsolicited, and it always points toward the choices he made, regardless of whether they make sense for you. Here's what's really happening. He needs to justify his own decisions. If you're succeeding with a different approach, it threatens his narrative, so he criticizes your path to validate his own. Your financial situation is different from everyone else's. Your goals are different. Your risk tolerance is different. A guy who actually understands money knows that different strategies work for different people. Fake rich people need everyone to validate their choices because deep down, they aren't sure those choices were right.
A truly wealthy guy can admit that different strokes work for different folks.
He doesn't need you to do what he does to feel good. The fake rich need everyone around them to confirm they're doing it right because deep down, they're doubting it. The 10th and final sign is simply overdoing it. Too many logos, too much jewelry, cologne that's way too strong. A walking advertisement for luxury brands rather than a person who happens to own some nice things. He's seen rich guys in movies and decided to cosplay that aesthetic. Everything screams money. Nothing whispers it. Here's something worth remembering. Look at photos of actual billionaires on a regular day. Not at galas, but just living life. Mark Zuckerberg wears the same gray t-shirt constantly. Warren Buffett drives a modest car and lives in the same house he bought decades ago. You'd pass many of the wealthiest people on the street and wouldn't even turn around. They have nothing to prove. Their identity isn't tied to what strangers think of their clothes. They could buy anything, so they don't feel the need to buy everything. Fake rich people operate from the opposite psychology. They feel they have to prove everything to everyone. So every item becomes a statement. Every accessory is evidence. The louder the flex, the more desperate the attempt. The wealthiest people in most rooms dress normally. Maybe 1 or 2 quality items, but nothing designed to broadcast status. They don't need validation from strangers. Their confidence doesn't require an expensive costume. When every single thing a guy wears is meant to signal wealth, it just turns into noise. It reads as desperation, not success. You can see the effort. Real wealth tends to be understated because it doesn't need to try. Real wealth isn't about what you show. It's about what you've built. The freedom to make choices without financial pressure. The security of knowing you can handle any emergency. The compound interest quietly growing in accounts nobody else sees. Fake wealth is a performance that gets more expensive over time. The luxury car needs service. The designer wardrobe needs updates. The lifestyle needs cash. Every month, more money goes into maintaining the image, and not a cent goes into building the substance. The guy pretending to be rich often ends up poorer than when he started. The effort of looking wealthy stops him from becoming actually wealthy. They're on a treadmill that speeds up the longer they stay on it, working harder and harder just to maintain an illusion that gives them nothing real. Here's what separates the real from the fake at the deepest level. The fake rich optimize for how things look to others. Every financial decision goes through a filter of external perception. Will this impress people? Will this show my status? Will I look successful? The actually wealthy optimize for how things work for themselves. Does this purchase make sense for my goals? Does this decision move me toward financial freedom? Does this choice align with what I actually value, not what I want others to think I value? One approach builds wealth, the other bleeds it. Next time you see someone projecting prosperity, look closer. The base model luxury car. The constant money talk. The social media performance. The one-upping and the condescension. The designer gear that might cost more than their savings account. Fake rich is everywhere once you know what to look for. More importantly, check yourself. Are you making financial decisions based on what genuinely serves your future? Or are you spending to maintain an image that's slowly bankrupting you? Real wealth whispers. It doesn't need anyone to notice. It doesn't require validation. It exists whether anyone else sees it or not. The goal isn't to look rich. The goal is to actually be rich. One path is expensive, exhausting, and leads nowhere. The other builds quietly until one day you realize you have options most people only pretend to have. Choose wisely.